Welcome to Guide to IELTS. In Writing Task 1 of IELTS Academic, you are asked to describe some visual information in your own words. It could be a bar graph, line graph, pie chart, table, a process, maps, or a combination of any of these, and you need to write a report by summarizing the information. You need to write at least 150 words in about 20 minutes. The Writing Task 1 academic question that will be discussed in this video is this bar graph, which shows the top 10 countries for production and consumption of electricity in the year 2014. Some quick tips for Writing Task 1 academic before we start. Don't write your answer in points, write complete sentences. Don't use contractions. Use a variety of words, and it does not just mean big words. Do not give your opinion. Include the most important and the most relevant points in the diagram. Some minor points or details may be left out. Plan your writing. The first step is trust your eyes. Look at the diagram given, and before you go into the details of numbers and figures, observe what features stand out visually. In this bar graph, it is immediately obvious that China and United States lead by a huge margin. Another feature that comes across very strongly is that in all the countries, there is very slight difference between the production and consumption quantities. And if we look in detail, Germany is the only country where the consumption is slightly more than production. In all the other countries, it is the reverse. The production is more than the consumption. So this gives us an idea of the main features. Step 2. Study the data. Before we start writing, we should decide what we are going to write. Identify the maximum and the minimum. Also try to figure out the major changes, comparisons, and trends. The first thing that we'll do is look for maximum and minimum and see the trends there. So as we mentioned before, maximum is China, closely followed by United States. The minimum is Korea, but then many others are in almost the same range. Except for China and United States, we can actually club all the other countries as having the production and consumption at 1100 or below. We'll be writing two sample answers for the same graph in this video. The first sample answer will focus on production and consumption side by side. We'll write about the countries with maximum production and consumption first. After that, we'll write about the 4 countries with lowest production and consumption. Finally, the 2 countries in the middle will be mentioned. The second sample will focus on production in all the countries first, and then in the next paragraph, the consumption will be described in comparison with production. Bottom line is, there is no one single way of writing a report. It is just important that we cover all the important points. So this is what your planning would look like. As I mentioned before, you can do this planning on your question paper in case of pen and paper IELTS. However, if you are appearing for computer-delivered IELTS, you are given a paper and pencil for rough work, and you can use for the planning. This process of planning should not take more than 5 minutes. Ideally, you should target to do this within 2 to 3 minutes. Step 3. Finally start writing. The first paragraph needs to be paraphrasing of the question. Again, no single way to do it. So in both the reports that we write, we'll paraphrase it differently. The question is, the bar chart below shows the top 10 countries for the production and consumption of electricity in 2014. We'll paraphrase this question for the first paragraph. We'll change bar chart to bar graph. We'll change shows to illustrates. Just 2014 to in the year 2014. Production and consumption to produced and consumed. So our first paragraph will be, the bar graph illustrates the leading 10 nations in terms of how much electricity is produced and consumed by them in the year 2014. Next, we'll mention China and United States together. So the first sentence of second paragraph, China and United States led both in the production and consumption of electricity by producing 5398 and 4099 billion kilowatts respectively. Next, these 2 countries consumed a little less electric power than the quantity that they produced. Next, we'll mention the third highest. Although Russia was the third highest, it trailed further behind the 2 top countries. Russia produced and consumed approximately 1000 billion kilowatts. Next paragraph, France, Brazil, Germany, and the Republic of Korea were at the 4th lowest positions, generating less than 600 billion kilowatts each. Germany was the only country which consumed more electricity than it produced, with its consumption being nearly 60 billion kilowatts higher than the production. Lastly, Japan and India are at 4th and 5th positions respectively, with generation of almost 900 billion kilowatts of electricity in the year 2014. So in this writing, we have clubbed a few countries and given an approximate value for their figures. In the first sample, we wrote about the production and consumption of each country side by side. And the second one will focus on production first. But before we start with that, again paraphrasing and the first paragraph. The bar graph compares the top 10 countries with reference to the amount of electricity produced and consumed by them in the year 2014. Next, we'll move on to how much power is generated in China, closely followed by United States. The first sentence of second paragraph. The maximum generation of electric power was in China at 5398 kilowatts, followed closely by the United States at about 1000 kilowatt less. So what we have done here is, instead of giving the exact figures for each, we have given the figures for the first one and then given the tentative difference between the two. Next, in comparison to these two nations, the other 8 trailed further behind. Russia produced 1057 kilowatts, followed closely by Japan and India with figures of 936.2 and 871 respectively. The remaining 5 countries generated less than 620 billion kilowatts each, with Korea Republic at 10th position with production of 485.1 billion kilowatt. Once again, we have clubbed a few categories and given comparative figures for some of them. Next paragraph now will focus on consumption. In terms of consumption of electricity, it is noteworthy that Germany is the only country which consumed more electricity than it produced. In contrast, the United States, India and France used much less electricity than the amount generated, with a difference of nearly 1000 billion kilowatt or more each. So now in this one, along with mentioning the fact that Germany has more consumption than production, we have also highlighted the 3 countries which have more difference between their production and consumption figures. You can find these writings and more on our website www.guidetoielts.com. These are the screenshots of these writings from the website. Before ending, let's list the vocabulary that we have used in these samples. If you found this video useful, do like, share and comment. Spread the word and subscribe to our channel. If there is any particular writing question that you would want us to discuss, or if you have any questions about anything else related to IELTS, ask in the comments below and we'll try to answer it in our forthcoming videos. Bye for now from guidetoielts.com team.